All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Nook Nation podcast. My name is Bret Inman, and today I'm joined by someone who has a special place in Chinooks history. Zack Granite played on the inaugural 2012 Lakeshore Chinooks team before being selected in the 2013 MLB Draft and eventually reaching the major leagues with the Minnesota Twins. Zack, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brett. It's good to be here and talking about the Chinooks, man. That brings me back. 2012. What a good year.
Speaking of bringing you back, when someone says Lakeshore Chinooks, what's the first memory that comes to mind?
Mequon, Wisconsin, man. First thing that comes to mind is how beautiful it is over there. It's honestly right off Lake Michigan and one of the nicest stadiums probably in that league. That full turf, and it's just I remember it like it was yesterday. Going out there, I felt like I was the only Italian kid out there from New York, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I mean, the stands, the stadium was great. The fans were great. The coaches were great. And I had some good teammates there as well. Brian Anderson, I believe, was on that squad as well. Major League Baseball player. So yeah, it was good. It was a good time. Unfortunately, my time got cut short because I had an injury. I re-injured my hamstring tendon. So I had to go home and rest. But yeah, it was a great time down there.
Yeah, and with that being the first season of the franchise, what were your expectations coming into Mech 1?
Honestly, I heard so many good things about the Northwoods League, so I was just excited to go out and go play every day. That's the type of player I was. I wanted to see what it was like. Um, Going into it, my interpretation was, this is as much as a minor league season as you're going to get. So for me, I was pumped because, in college, you have Mondays off, maybe a midweek game here or there, and then you play on the weekend. So, you got to bring it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But in the Northwoods League, which I loved, is you got to bring it every single day, right? So Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, right? There's not that many off days. I don't know if it's still like this, but and I remember it because this is going back now for me for a little bit. 2012 was when I played there, but I believe you play like 70 games in like 75 days. I don't know. Is that still true? Does they still do that, Brett?
72 and 76 days. Yep.
Yeah, so somewhere around there. Yeah. So sorry, I might be a little bit off. I'm going back 14 years.
No, yeah, it's changed a lot. There's up to 26 teams in the Northwoods League now too, so it stretches all the way from North Dakota. There's some teams in Indiana, so it's pretty big.
Yeah, that's. I remember the Madison Mallards. We had I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this, but we had a streaker run on the field, which I thought was pretty funny. Um,
That's
yeah, it
hilarious.
was good. It was good atmospheres out there, So it was. I was really glad I went out there and got that experience.
Yeah, we'll take it back quite a while now. And what made you first fall in love with the game of baseball?
Just my brother played it, and it was a way for me to it's first of all, who doesn't love standing up at the plate with a ball coming at them, right? So it's I had that's just what we did in the streets, right? Like we grew up playing wiffle ball, playing all that stuff, and I was always really fast. So and I could always put the bat on the ball, so it kind of came naturally to me. Um, I just loved it. I loved to pitch when I was younger, and having the ball in your hands, making every decision, and it's just baseball. It's poetry in motion. It's beautiful. It has a heartbeat. There's so many different ways you could be good at the game. And it can eat you up, right? It can get you gray hair when you're young. It's a very mental game too. There's just so many beautiful aspects of the game. And I liked it. I just liked the technique of everything, and trying to be one step ahead. It's like playing chess, playing while other people are playing checkers. It's trying to be one step ahead. It's the cat and mouse game of being on first base. There's so many different things I could go on and on about how I fell in love with the game. But there's just so many beautiful parts to it that can make you a really good baseball player.
You mentioned different ways of being good at the sport, and speed is a big thing for you. And you led the team in stolen bases, had few strikeouts, played in 25 games. You mentioned leaving with an injury back in 2012. But what does that say about your play style and how you were able to assert yourself as a guy that was a speedster?
Well, yeah, I played to my strengths, right? So my two strengths were I was really fast and I can put the bat on the ball, right? I didn't have a ton of power. I wasn't that type of player, so I didn't even try to be that type of player. I think where a lot of guys go wrong is they try to do more than they're capable of. They try to lean on their weaknesses and try to improve that area. And where I went was I was like, I'm just going to go heavier on my strengths, right? I worked on my speed and the conditioning and staying healthy, even though I got hurt in 2012. Like a big part of my game was my legs. So I needed to make sure that I was always 100%. And for me, it's not. I guess it is an excuse. Every time I feel like I was trying to put weight on and trying to lift more and lift heavy, I always felt sluggish and I always ended up getting hurt. Right. So I could have probably made a better adjustment there and maybe my career would have been longer. But I kind of went all in on my strengths and dove deep into doing the little things, being able to bunt better, being able to hit the ball the other way, having a good eye, laying off tough pitches, right? Because to me, you're only as good as the pitches you swing at. So you got to be able to do damage, on good pitches to hit. So, and for me, it was I wanted to become like a really good catalyst for the other guys, and I feel like I did a good job there. So I doubled down on that. So that's what made me a good baseball player.
And you're talking about how, today in baseball, exit velo and launch angle are the big thing. Then
Yeah,
that's not a lot of guys' games. So I believe you coach now, is that correct?
yeah, I do coaching and training with kids and stuff like that. And my biggest takeaway to them is like, yes, it's part of the game. I understand that, but if you can create value as a baseball player, no matter what that is, that could be hitting the ball really hard, but it could be getting on base for a guy to drive you in, right? So it's like, as long as you're creating value as a baseball player, you have a good chance, right? My value was I scored runs, right? You need somebody to score runs to win baseball games. So I ended up being on a lot of like winning teams. So if you remember, and right before I got to the Chinooks, right? So I won a city champion at Townville High School. So my senior year of high school. Then I go into Seton Hall and we win the Big East championship. I was the leadoff hitter. And then I go into my first year summer ball and we win the championship there. So like when I was the leadoff hitter, when I was one of the main guys, we're winning. So you see how like the value comes into play always is like you want to be on winning teams and you want to be able to create value. And I was able to do that as a baseball player.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about summer ball and how that impacted you. Why should college players play summer ball? What does it give you that the college season doesn't?
You're playing every day. You got to play. Northwoods is the best league in my opinion because you play every day. You need to learn how to play every day because you don't. You have too many breaks in college. You have every Monday's off. Um, midweek games every now and then, but like you have to learn the grind of playing every day because it's different on the body. You don't get those like rest days. It's long bus rides, right? You're going from North Dakota to all over the place in that league. So it really, really sets you up for the grind of pro ball, right? And like now, especially like even now, right? You play 72 games in 76 days. You get off days now. I believe every Monday is an off day, so it's not as much. But you get used to being around the guys every day and like just being at the field, working on your craft. So yeah, I think it's extremely important.
And the other thing too is for hitters using a wood bat. That's different. Obviously, in the
Yes,
college season,
yes,
you're using a metal
yep.
bat. So how was that experience for you learning to use the lumber?
So for me, it was very easy because, and I'll tell you the exact reason. It's my sophomore year of high school in New York City. They made a rule that you had to use wood bats. So I've been using a wood bat since I'm a sophomore in high school. So I always felt like I had an advantage, especially once we went to the BB core bats. I never really used a juice bat, right? So I was always using wood. So I mean, I think my first year. when we went to the wood bats, I think I threw 3 no-hitters my sophomore year because it's hard to hit with wood, especially in the Northeast where it's cold and you're playing baseball in March, April, and May, right? Like the weather's just not great, and man, there's not really a ton of holes with wood bats. So there's not really a lot of give, and it's a very difficult to hit. But I was able to do that, and like you think about it, I was a sophomore. We're not as strong. We're not as strong with the bat and everything. So you have to learn how to do the small ball stuff. Oh, thank you. Yeah, baby. So you have to learn how to do the small ball stuff. So it's learning how to control the barrel and all that stuff too. And going back to your thing about summer ball, in college you play about 60 games, 65 games if you make it, further. Um, you know, Minor league season is 140 games. So it's like it's 2.5 times as much. So, you can get hot for 50 games,
Yeah.
when you stay hot for 140. So you definitely get the peaks and valleys of a longer season. They call it the dog
Yeah.
days of summer for a reason. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of baseball to be played.
100%. And every youth player dreams of playing in the big leagues, of course, but
Yeah.
there's often times where people have the realization that it's not for them. And when was the realization for you that this could become your profession?
Um, that's a great question. Well, I always wanted to play, right? And I was always like a believer in winning. Like I wanted to win. That was like my goal was always to win. So I really didn't, I know it's going to sound like I'm lying, but I really didn't think about getting drafted and all that stuff until I started getting phone calls like, hey, can you start filling out the questionnaire and stuff like that too? But I mean, I had a dream of playing in the major leagues and when I was 5 years old, right? Hanging out in the backyard playing wiffle ball, watching the New York Yankees of the 2000s winning World Series after World Series, like or being there, right? Like you had that mentality of like all I wanted to do was win because that's what I saw, right? I saw the Yankees play. You got to think about it. In 1990, 98, I'm young, I'm 6 years old, but you start watching baseball. Right now, it's 7 years old. They won a World Series. 8 years old. They won a World Series. 2000. They win a World Series. 2001. They're in the World Series. Right. 2003. They're in the World Series. So my whole childhood, I'm watching the Yankees. I'm watching Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams, Tino Martinez, Paul O'Neill, all these guys, these winning class act baseball players. I wanted to be just like them. So for me, it was those were my role models.
So on the note of winning, it's tough coming into a summer scene where you're playing with a lot of guys you don't know. And it could be easy to be selfish and be there for your own stats, for your own good. So in your summer with the Chinooks, how do you focus on being a leader maybe, or just really trying to engage yourself to win baseball games?
Well, I mean, you're like winning, I guess, came naturally because if I'm on base, if I'm doing well, we're gonna win. That's the type of player I was because I was always at the top of the lineup. So you have your 2, 3, 4 hitters coming up to plate, and if I'm on base, I'm doing my job, and all they have to do is their job, right? Never asking anybody to play a superhero, right? It was more just like if we all do our jobs, we're gonna win, right? So my goal, I had 2 jobs, right? My goal was to get on base, and then from getting on base, it's how do I create a run? Right. So for me, it's stealing a base. For me, we can get a little technical here, but like if a pitcher's holding me on and he's got a slide step to the plate, more often than not, he's going to throw more fastballs in those and when he's holding me on because he wants to give the catcher a chance to throw me out. So if he's going to throw more fastballs, the hitters behind me are going to be happier because we're all looking fastball. Right? If you're playing at that level, if you're playing with the Chinooks, if you're playing at the professional level, you can hit a fastball. So you're not really going to get blown by. So it's just when I got on, it created an easier way for guys to hit. So, and if you even think about it from that standpoint, or if I was able to steal second base, now all they need is a blue pit or a single to score me. Or if I got to third base, now all they need is a fly ball. Right? So I try. The reason what made me good and a leader on and off the field is that I was able to make my teammates' jobs easier, so people liked me, right? Who doesn't like when a guy on third base, all I got to do is hit a fly ball? It makes my job a lot easier. So, it's just easy when things are smooth, when things are going well, when when we're winning, everybody's a little bit more chill. You can do and say a couple more things that you can't when you're losing.
I went back and watched your first big league hit, and that was a stretch double, right? Hustle double
Yeah, yeah.
in Houston.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Charlie Morton in
So
Houston.
yeah, so that is exactly what you're saying there of, you didn't hit the ball ultra hard, but you found your way on second base, and that's just the production side of it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, do I agree with everything analytics is doing? No, because it's ruining guys like me, the smaller, didn't hit the ball extremely hard, but played the game the right way and hustled and did the right things. But yeah, that was just that, I tried to stretch everything, you know what I'm saying? Put pressure on the defense. That was my goal, right? So it's, again, if I can get to second base, if I can get to scoring position without needing a hit, or if I could stretch it a single into a double, who doesn't? I'd always be rather and hit with guys on base because now I can drive somebody in, and that makes my production go up even more. So yeah, it's always about doing the little things the right way, trying to take advantage of every little opportunity there is. Because again, I stopped playing baseball, when I was 29, 30 years old, right? Like it's short lived, right? Especially nowadays, with younger guys coming up, and these guys are monsters. I mean, I was following the draft, the first round, and everybody's getting drafted 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". You can just see the way the game is going, and even with the announcer speaking about it, the metrics. That's what they're kind of going off of. Do I agree with it? No, but at the end of the day, that's the way they're going, and you have to adjust. So yeah, I have to do a better job of adjusting as well, and we all do.
So for a guy that may be a little bit undersized, a speedster that uses his tools well, how do you adjust to this new analytical sense of the game?
You win. That's just plain and simple. You win because that's going to be your only chance. Nobody came to see me play. They came to watch a pitcher play, and I ended up doing well, or something like that. So, but when you're on winning teams, you get more opportunities, right? So, like, I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing for an undersized kid, I could tell you, is you got to be on a team that's, whether you're a D3 or a D2 kid from Minnesota, like, you know, go out, go win a national championship. You're right. Go be the catalyst on that team and work your way up. It's never been harder to get drafted nowadays, but it's never been easier to make it to the major leagues because they're getting rid of all these levels and they're shortening the rounds and all that stuff. So you got to put yourself in a position where you're going to be seen. Where are you going to be seen when you're playing later in the tournaments for high school kids, where you're later in the year for college kids? It's a lot of SEC kids taken, right? SEC is probably the best conference in college baseball, and a lot of those teams are playing into June and July into June when everybody else is done. So they're able to scouts to go watch them, and they're playing on TV. There's a lot of eyes on you, right? You're going to get
Yeah.
drafted when you have eyes on you and you're playing well, right? Look at the
Yeah.
kid that Willis kid. He won the world. He was the College World Series MVP, right? Fifth round pick now from Oklahoma. His brother was the first overall pick a couple of years ago. So it's like just keep playing well, and good things happen when you keep playing well. That's it. You don't have to worry
Yeah.
about your numbers and your all that stuff. If you keep playing well, they're going to notice. I
For
got
sure.
called up with Minnesota not because I was hitting the ball 115 miles an hour. It was because I was hitting like 470 in the month of June. Right? You keep playing well, you're gonna get an opportunity. So I get all the metrics. Maybe that'll help you move up in the draft and stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to play well.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the draft and your call up if you're up for it. What do you remember about getting your name called? Who were you with and who was with you? How cool was that experience in 2013?
So I was first round. I mean, obviously, I knew I wasn't going to go. Early. I was, I'm 5'10", 165 pounds. But I remember watching it first couple of rounds, and just talking with my agent, and we were just discussing probably going to go, on the third day, rounds 11 to 15 was kind of where the projection was. And I remember after the second day, I got a phone call from the Twins, the Angels, a couple other teams as well, and just discussing like, hey, like we want you. What's it going to take? Blah blah blah. So we're kind of going over everything, and next thing I know, it's 10 minutes before the draft, and I get a phone call, and they're like, hey, we want to take you in the 11th round. Would you take this? And I said, no. And just kind of going back and forth. And it was, okay, sounds good. And I didn't get a call from that team. And then I remember in the 14th round, just listening, I didn't even get a phone call, and the Twins select Zack Granite. So I was like, holy crap, I didn't even know that was happening. So, I always envisioned, you get a phone call before, but towards the later rounds too, it's quick, right? It's not 10 minutes before
Right.
every pick. So it's a lot quicker. So I got my name called, and I was like, oh my God, here we go. So, it was a really cool rush. And then I remember, you get like a day or two, and it's like, oh, go straight down. You're ready to go now. Now you got to go win a spot. And then I went down to Florida. We had like a little, 3, 4, 5 days down there, like train in and stuff like that. And then we got shipped off to Elizabethton, Tennessee, where we had the short season A, and that's where a lot of like the college guys went, and was there for the remaining of the summer. And we finished up, I think, in like September. And then we went after that, right? You go home. I went home for like a week or two, and then it's straight to instructs, where you're with all the coaches and learning the game even more. So it's a grind. It's every day, and your body's got to show up every single day. So that's why I think it's so important to be fit, to be in shape, to be comfortable in your body, because it's a lot on your feet. It's every single day, and it's not just you guys don't only like you only see the game part, but when for a 7 o'clock game, you're showing up at 1 o'clock. You got early work, so. And think about it. You're done at 10 o'clock with the game. By the time you shower, eat, get out of there, get home, relax for a couple, an hour or two. Then again, it feels like it's 2 o'clock in the morning. And now all of a sudden you're waking up and getting breakfast and then going to the field, So it's a grind, but it's honestly, I enjoyed every second of it. I love to work. So for me, it was easy.
Something that stuck out there is you mentioned the 1 to 2 days from the time you get your name called until the time where you're going to win a spot. What was that experience like for you to really realize that this is just the start?
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. I mean it's you realize Pro Bowl is no joke. Everybody's throwing 100 miles an hour. It feels like everybody's got some tool that you're like, God damn, like it's really, really cool to see, and be around, because it's a lot of like specimens, right? Like there's some freak of natures out there that are just really good baseball players, guys that work their tail off to get there. And it's a really cool environment, because it's a little bit of everything, right? And for me, I was always one of the smaller guys, but I had that like New York mentality where I feel like it doesn't matter. Like you still gotta, at the end of the day, you can be 6'6", but you still gotta come in my strike zone, right? It's my strike zone. So I always had that like tougher mentality. I never was self-conscious about the way I was and everything. So it's really it was a matter of I just trusting my tools and being able to compete with those guys, and that's what I did.
How do you really tap into the mental side of things? Because so many people, they don't understand the mental side until really late in their careers. When did you kind of figure that out, and how mentally challenging minor league baseball can be, and how to really overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, like, you're gonna go through struggles, right? So it's like understanding that how are you gonna work yourself out of that, right? And like having people in your corner. There's people that I called on it all the time when I was struggling, being like, listen, like you got to help me out, And it's being able to work your way through it, right? Because I know, especially nowadays, everybody's got a hitting coach. Everybody's got all this. Like, you don't have that during the season, right? I could be in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where I was, and there's one hitting coach for, you know, 12, 13 guys. So it's being able to. Man, I understand, but please. Sorry. So it's
No problem. No problem.
it's a matter of you got to be able to figure out yourself. And it's understanding your game and understanding how to get out of it. That's why I think it was so important for me to stay who I was, because that's when I can make adjustments. Because for me, I know how to do this, right? It wasn't like I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. I wasn't trying to look for more power. I was just playing my game, right? Just letting the game come to me, and that's where I had the most success.
So the jump from college baseball to minor league baseball, how similar was it to that stretch of games you played in Mech 1, and how did that experience in that summer help you to really engage yourself in the minor league baseball scene?
Yeah, like I said, it's the playing every day, right? Guys were good. There's guys from all over the place. And it's just me not changing my game, right? Just playing, being who I was, and being able to understand like the adjustments that I needed to make, right? And like learning my craft and getting even better with my strengths. And, always working out, always trying to get better in my weaknesses too, but I always focus on my strengths, right? Still going out early, getting my bunts down, right? Like being able to see the ball better. It just added, so much value to my game. And that's, the summer I had in 2012 was great just because it prepared me for pro ball, right? Long bus rides and the grind and, meeting new people. So you do that a lot in baseball, and you got to be comfortable with it, and that's for my personality. I got along. I remember Charlie Markson he was a hometown kid from there, and we both were outfielders. We hung out a lot when I was there. He was a nice kid, and it was just being able to be friendly with everybody, right? Even if you don't love the person, but if you're going to be teammates with them, right, you got to kind of like adjust and adapt, and be open to talking to everybody.
Being from the East Coast, how different was it to come to the Dairyland for a summer?
It was nice. Like I said, it's summer in the Midwest. It really, honestly, can't get much better than that. It's beautiful. Lake Michigan right there is just it's unbelievable. The weather was perfect. The scenery was unbelievable. It's just a beautiful town to be in. Mequon it was really, really, really nice. I mean, the field was awesome. The crowd was great. It's easy to show up when there's energy. And that's what I try to bring every day is bring that energy with me. So yeah, it was good. It was awesome. I love the Midwest.
So then a couple years down the road, when you get the call to the big leagues, walk me through that day. Who told you? Who was the first person you called, and did it feel real?
Yeah, that was probably one of the coolest days I ever had. So we're hitting in the cage before a doubleheader, I believe it was, or maybe it was. I don't even remember. But we've been playing a lot because we were in Rochester, New York, and in April the weather was so bad. We had so many rainouts, and we had to make them up in June and July. So we're banged up as a team. I think we have 11 position players right now. This guy was banged up, and we had 13 pitchers, and this is when you can only have a 25-man roster. So usually you carry 13 pitchers in AAA because guys are going up and down, especially pitchers, and when they send them down, they don't send them down fresh. They send them down after they just used them. So usually you have 13 pitchers. So we had 12 position players, and one guy was banged up, so he kind of wasn't playing right there. And you need a backup catcher, so you really don't have any backups. So our coach comes in our manager comes in the cages, and he's like, "Hey, we have a lineup change." And I'm thinking to myself, like, how the hell do we have a lineup change? Like, we got 11 guys. Like, what could it possibly be? And he's like, he looks at me and he puts his hands out and he goes, "Adios, you're going to the big leagues." And everybody went nuts. It was pretty cool. So like Matt Haig picked me up. Nico Goodrum was there. Mitch Garver was there. All my teammates. It was really cool. It was a really cool feeling. And I couldn't believe it. They're like, "Hey, you can finish hitting and then go pack your stuff. You got a plane in like 2 hours." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So now I had to just run home, get all my stuff, pack up, go to Minnesota. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was with me in Rochester. She drove home to New Jersey, and then took a flight from there to Minnesota to come see me. It was honestly insane. It was just insane. So, but it's crazy how fast it happens, and it's like, dude, you were just in Rochester for like a couple months. Get up and move your life, and now you got to go to Minnesota, and it was really cool. Yeah, honestly, I'll have that experience forever.
Outside of baseball, on the life part of it, you just mentioned that your girlfriend is now your wife. your girlfriend at the time, now your wife, obviously. How awesome is that to kind of go through that journey with her, and now looks like you have kids?
Yeah, so it was cool. Going back, that was 2017. So that was 9 years ago now. Jesus. So time flies, man. It really does. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, 2017, probably the best year, greatest year of my life, just because of that, right? Like every kid's dream is to play in the major leagues, and I was able to do it. So it was extremely great to have her with me and experience it with me. And it's crazy. We were young, right? I was 24 years old when that happened. So I got drafted at 20, so I'm in the big leagues at 24. So it was a really cool experience.
And then when you get to Minnesota, what do you remember about walking into the Twins clubhouse and really being in the atmosphere of big league baseball?
It was awesome, man. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I remember I get called up, and obviously I got there at like midnight because of however the flight from Rochester or whatever. So I get in at midnight. So obviously there's no game going on, and we have a 1 o'clock game the next day. So obviously I can't sleep a lick. So I'm in the hotel right next to the stadium, and I remember I can't sleep, right? And then so I get to the ballpark. I don't know what time to get to the ballpark because I'm not there. So I get there at like 7 a.m. I'm the first one there. I beat Paul Molitor there. So I'm just like looking around the clubhouse, and I'm like, this is sick. So it was just like a really cool experience. Just being able to walk around the clubhouse by myself for a little bit, but the emotions were through the roof, right? You don't want to make a fool of yourself here, but I'm like a kid in a candy store, man. I'm just looking around like this is sick. Because the minor leagues is a grind, right? And like, yeah, it's nice, but it's there's nothing like the major leagues, right? There's a lot more money behind it all, and it's everybody's goal is to get there. So I remember just looking around, being like, this is so cool. So yeah, I remember the jitters and everything was through the roof. So just you see that extra deck, it feels like a coliseum almost, right? You feel like a gladiator in a movie. So it's really cool, like seeing everything around. It's unbelievable. It's like the energy up there is just it's awesome. It's like a dream come true. Too bad. I wish everybody can experience it because it really is. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and then was there a welcome to the big leagues moment for you?
Um, I guess just not. I don't really think so. Right? Like just
Okay.
like just kind of it was kind of crazy. It was kind of strange because I got called up, and I got called up 2 days before the All-Star break. So I didn't play the first game. I pinch hit, and the Twins gave me a standing ovation, like the crowd, which was really cool. Then I played in my first game. Right, I started the next day against the Orioles. It was a one. That was another 1 o'clock game, and then it was the All Star break. So I went home, right? Because what am I gonna do? You know what I'm saying? It was just like a weird thing. So I was able to go home and like spend time with my family after just being in the big league. So I went home and like hung out with my friends, which was so crazy to me because if I was in Rochester, I wouldn't have come home. But I had all my stuff in Rochester, so I was like, I might as well just go home and see my friends and family. So it was big. It was cool.
You mentioned Paul Molitor a couple minutes ago, and most Chinook fans are Brewer fans as well. That's a Brewer legend, Paul Molitor. So,
Yeah,
what was that experience like to play for him?
I mean Molly is 3,000 hits, Hall of Famer. I mean, talk about like he was awesome. He was a class act with everything. He actually won Manager of the Year in 2017. I'm not saying because of me, but he won Manager of the Year in 2017. We made the playoffs that year. Just when he spoke, you listened, right? He's a legend, right? So he had a lot of really like cool things to say, and he liked the way I played my game. Um, and he was just a great guy. 3,000 hits though, man. What a gamer he was.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was just the ultimate respect in that locker room for him. Just he was a class act, and with everything he did, and he was just he. I mean, I wish I could have watched him play more when I was younger, and but he's a Hall of Famer, right? You know, when those guys speak, you got to make sure you're listening.
You mentioned playing in the playoffs that year, and I read that you were a diehard Yankee fan growing up. You mentioned that a few moments ago. You guys played them in the wild card. How surreal was that moment for you?
It was cool, right? I mean, obviously, playoff baseball is where you want to be, and I actually got to experience that in my hometown with against the Yankees. We got out to a 3-0 lead against Severino in the first with Dozier hitting a homer, and unfortunately, it didn't go our way, and the season ended there. That was when the wild card game was just one game. So
Yep.
you know the rules were constantly changing around there, but it was like that wild card game was one game, and we were up 3-0 in the first. So unfortunately, we lost. And I remember the moment Didi Gregorius hit that 3-run home run against us, the crowd erupted. Man, I mean, I've never heard a stadium that loud, and just sitting there in the dugout, being like, "Damn!" Like just took the wind right out of us. And yeah, unfortunately, we ended up losing. But I got to just drive home that day. So one of my buddies picked me up, and I was like, I got all my stuff with me because it was the postseason and we were traveling. So I was like, you want to just take me home? So I was able to just go home with him.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Transitioning out
well,
of this a little bit, now that you're giving back to young players, what made you want to do that, and how has the game changed, leading you to lead your players a little bit differently than maybe some new school coaches might?
yeah, like we talked about, it's a lot of metric stuff. So, I mean, you got to kind of buy in. Like now, these kids all want to hit with the hit tracks and see where they're track their data and all that stuff. So, you got to you got to adapt with the times, right? So, it's like a lot of the stuff they do is like with like they hit and they look up at the screen to see like where the ball would go on the field and stuff like that. So, it's different, right? So, you got to kind of get used to it. I never hit with the hit tracks until I got to pro ball. So, but you adapt with your times. It's getting there. We always talk about everybody always wants to hit, right? But like, or are you working on your defense? Are you working on your speed? Like, there's other aspects of the game that you have to be good at in order to be good at the game. So it's always a constant battle of, trying to get these kids locked in and dealing with social media. Not to get too much of the mental side, but like kids to me, kids struggle the most is mentally because they all work hard. Kids work hard these days. There's no doubt about that. They're in the cages, right? I didn't grow up with cages. There's like six in this town I live in. So it's there's baseball cages all around now, and like everybody's got a hitting coach. So it's about kind of locking them in different ways because they struggle up here where we struggled. Like if you worked hard, I feel like when you were younger, you had a good chance of being really good at baseball. But now everybody's working hard. So the struggle for them is now being right up here, right? Being able to lock it in when they're not feeling 100%, right? Because they all think something's wrong with their swing when they're not doing well. They don't realize how hard the game of baseball is, and like you're gonna fail and go through slumps. So a lot of the stuff that I do when I'm talking to hitters is we work on their swings, of course, too, but it's a lot of going over how are you up here, because this to me is the most important aspect and how you separate yourself in today's game.
Tying it all back together, when you think about your journey from Mech 1 to the major leagues, what stands out the most to you?
Uh, just how much fun I had, right? Like again, like you always have fun when you're winning. You always have fun when you're playing well, and that's all I tried to do because I knew if I was gonna make it, I had to make it as much fun as possible. So, in baseball, yeah, I mean, you play too, right? Like baseball's a lot of fun when you're playing well. So, it's definitely I just try to keep it light and sweet and have as much fun as possible. And eventually I knew the numbers and we'll be there. And it's not a how fast can you get there? It's a slow grind, right? There's levels that you have to hit. There's certain things that you have to do, and you're gonna go through some lulls. I wanted to quit. There was plenty of times where I remember calling my dad and being like, "Man, like I don't know if this is out for me." It's just there's ebbs and flows to it, and you just got to stick through and grind it out and understand that it might not be your day, but again, baseball, the beautiful thing about the Northwoods and about Pro Bowl is there's always another day tomorrow. So it's grinding it out, getting better, and pushing yourself to be as best as you possibly can.
I think the Northwoods League is such a great place to be for those players to have fun and really understand. Playing every day is fun because they're signing autographs after the game and the fans are packed
Yeah.
out, all that type of stuff. So that's awesome. And one final thing, if you are talking to a Chinooks player, current Chinooks player watching this, what advice would you give to them?
Just keep grinding, right? Keep having fun, keep learning, right? Because it's there's so much to learn about this game, and talk to people. Like, I didn't realize how many people were going through the same things that I were, right? If I was struggling or if I was going well, it's like, understand how somebody does something well and try to learn as much as you possibly can, right? Because you guys are all learning the game still. So one guy might do something better than you. He can help you there, and you can offer him something, that you think about or you do. Because, again, it's not – I understand metrics are part of the game, but there's definitely things that you can just do that are just help you become a better baseball player, and it's learning as much as you possibly can. Take a little bit from everybody and make it your own. So just keep playing well, keep grinding. I know it's every day is a little bit different, but it's worth it in the end, and you get to make lifelong friends from all the places you play at and the memories you make. So just it'll help you in the long run.
Zach, thanks a ton for doing this.
Bret, I appreciate you having me. Tell the Chinook Nation I said what's up. And
Absolutely.
miss them. Maybe one day I'll be able to get back out there and catch a game myself.
Get back on the shores and then watch the squad play. That'd be awesome.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thanks a ton. Until next time, thank you very much.
Yes. Take care, Bret. Thank you.
Nook Nation, that was Zack Granite, played with the Chinooks in the inaugural season and went on to play in the big leagues, played a long career in the minor leagues, got to the bigs with the Minnesota Twins in 2017. What an awesome character. A guy that is etched in history in Lakeshore and was on that squad, played 25 games in 2012. That was his only year of summer ball. Played it in Mequon, and a guy from the East Coast. Enjoyed his time in the Midwest, his first time in the Midwest, and years later ended up in the big leagues just across the border in Minnesota. So very awesome for Zack Granite to come on, and thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Bret Inman saying thank you and have a great day and stay hooked.